In today's video, we have breaking news and it's tragic. Charlie Kirk has been shot at the Utah Valley University. Secondly, the criminal out of North Carolina spoke to his sister. We have audio tape of him explaining why he did what he did. Finally, there's a new inflation report that shows positive news regarding the economy. And all of these stories will show you what both sides are saying and then give you the bottom line.
Counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
Oh my God.
Wait, Cody, go, run. Oh.
Okay, so what you just saw there was the crowd at Utah Valley University running after Charlie Kirk had been shot. People are saying he was shot in the neck based on the video footage. They have not actually identified the name of the shooter. I do have a clip to show you of a man who was apprehended at the scene. But first things first, please pray for the man. Pray for his family. I truly believe he was doing great work. Definitely had a huge impact on the younger generation, and that's what we need in this country. And so, I mean, that's all that could really be said as in regards to him, is just continue to pray for him and his family. Now, here's what the FBI did have to say. We're closely monitoring reports of the tragic shooting involving Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University. Our thoughts are with Charlie, his loved ones, and everyone affected. Agents will be on the scene quickly, and the FBI stands in full support of the ongoing response and investigation. And also the vice president said this: say a prayer for Charlie Kirk, a genuinely good guy and a young father. Now here's that clip of the man who was arrested at the scene.
This is the guy that shot him?
That individual yet. We don't even know if he's the true shooter, but he was arrested at the scene. That has to be said. It's too early to know anything except that he was shot. Clearly, they probably took him to the hospital. Okay, obviously. And the whole university is on lockdown. The FBI is involved. As you guys can see, the president has weighed in. We must pray. We must all pray for Charlie Kirk, who's been shot. A great guy from top to bottom. God bless him. Now, this, regardless of the outcome, is again another example of how dangerous it is to go out there and tell the truth to people, regardless of what your beliefs are. Now, just when you think that in his darkest hour, people would put politics aside, not MSNBC. So not only did they suggest that it was a Trump supporter who did this, but they also go back to describing him as a divisive figure, etc. I'll just let you hear it for yourself. Take a look.
In which a shooting like this happens.
Yeah, and again, I emphasize what you just emphasized. We don't know any of the full details of this. That we don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration, or so we have no idea. But
Charlie Kirk is a divisive figure, polarizing, lightning rod, whatever term you want to use. Why?
Well, he's one of MAGA's most prominent voices online. He hosts a near daily podcast. He opines on almost everything. He's been very closely aligned with the president since his initial run for office in 2015, 2016. And his ties to Trump really elevated his own brand. He was really quite young as an activist when the president launched his initial campaign. And he has kind of ridden along with MAGA since 2016 and built up a massive, massive brand of his own.
Yeah, you see, it's the language they use and the way they word things to minimize the impact of Charlie Kirk. There's no question he's had a positive impact on young adults. I think he's the person actually encouraging young adults to think for themselves, ask questions. Don't just take whatever your professor tells you as fact, because that's what we've been seeing in these universities, okay? And I'm not seeing people on the left actually do positive things for the young adults out there. And he has, and not many people can say that. Now, the disgusting coverage continues, and I kind of hate to actually show this, but I'm a believer in showing you both sides. MSDNC continues to suggest this idea that the Trump administration is now going to use this as a way to do something that they normally wouldn't do. Take a look.
As we were just talking about a moment ago with Alan, after one of the Doge employees was allegedly attacked in Washington, D.C., that's what Donald Trump used as justification to send in federal troops into Washington, D.C. to get things under control. The carjacking situation, he used that. And I know it's hard to predict the future, Mark, but you can imagine the administration using this as a justification for something.
I must admit, I'm at a loss to guess as to what happens next.
Okay, well, if it was up to me, they would lose their license, okay? I'm talking about MSNBC. No wonder they are being spin off and they have to rebrand. I mean, these people are just vile. And they call themselves journalists, by the way, and this is what they talk about. I get it. We all have an opinion. I get that. And I'm sure there's a time for it. But can you guys just stick to the facts? You guys don't have to keep playing politics here. It really is disgusting in my opinion. And now I want to move to our next story, which is a big update regarding this criminal that stabbed the woman in the neck. The president had some more words about this situation earlier this morning. Take a look.
The animal who so violently killed the beautiful young lady from Ukraine who came to America searching for peace and safety should be given a quick, there is no doubt, trial and only awarded the death penalty. There can be no other option, President Donald J. Trump. Now, of course, 34-year-old DeCarlos Brown was charged with the state charges of first-degree murder after he was arrested for killing, according to police, 23-year-old Irina Zarutska. But yesterday, federal prosecutors did also issue that federal charge, one count of committing an act causing death on mass transportation system. And Attorney General Pam Bondi promised that they would seek the maximum criminal sentence. That would be either the death penalty or life in prison. Now, look, her family also issued a lengthy statement yesterday, basically giving us a look at their last moments before they found out that she had been killed, and also issuing a call to action, demanding systemic change.
Okay, so clearly the president is continuing to hammer this issue home, and it's sparking some interesting conversations on social media that we're about to get into here. But before we do, I wanted to point something out that I found to be interesting about this story using ground news. Now, you guys follow me, you know what the deal is. Ground news is the best tool that you can use to see the full picture of stories being reported by mainstream media. You want to see what the left is talking about. You want to see what the right is talking about. You want to see what one side is refusing to talk about. Ground news is going to show it to you. And the reason why it's valuable is because it helps you think for yourself. Now, let me show you an example of this particular story. The percentage of outlets that lean right that are reporting on this heinous murder, 72%. When it comes to 12%, that's Democrats. That's left-leaning. That's how much they really don't care about this story. And we've been saying it for the past couple of days. They're pissed off that they even have to talk about it thanks to the president. Now, there's actually more footage that's been released to the public of this attack. Let's take a look now. So we had to blur it out for YouTube reasons, but I think you guys get the gist of what went on there. That's the full video so far, or at least most of it that's been released. And listen, I find the disheartening thing is it doesn't matter the skin color. The media should be highlighting these heinous attacks every single time because they should demand the local leaders, police departments, the justice system, the DAs, the judges to hold these criminals accountable. And I know in a perfect world, that's exactly what they would do. So, of course, the president is going to keep bringing it up. Now, you wouldn't have known that only one side wanted to talk about this. As I showed you already, 72% of the sources lean right. You wouldn't know that unless you use the tool like Ground News to give you the full picture of what's being reported. And again, we use it because I like to see what both sides are saying. And that's why I recommend you do the same.
So if you want to use this tool for yourself, all you have to do is go to ground.news/Devori, or you could download the mobile app. Just use promo code Devori, and it's going to give you access to everything that I showed you in this video, including 40% off the Vantage plan.
All right, so now what we have for you is a audio recording that's been released. Now, it was a conversation between this criminal, DeCarlos Brown, and his sister, Tracy. And she just asked him point blank, why would you do something like this? And I'll let you hear it for yourself. I think it only takes you about 5 seconds to realize this guy is not mentally sound.
So you said something in your body did what?
Nah, the material, put it like this, the material using my body to stab the lady.
And so she just got stabbed.
Yeah. You know that's not me. I'm talking about just for no reason. But since they did that, now they got to investigate the material my body is exposed to. Since they want to do all that, now they got to investigate.
It's funny because she's from the Ukraine. She's from Russia, and you know they got a war. They had a war going on against the United States. So I'm just trying to understand, out of all people, why her?
It ain't. I don't have nothing. They just lashed out on her. That's what happened. They lashed out on her. Whoever was working the material, whoever was working the material, they lashed out on her.
Okay, so point number one, in that audio tape that you heard, clearly this guy's mentally ill. I mean, there's something's wrong with him, right? But more importantly, he didn't say white lady when he was speaking to his sister. Allegedly, he said white lady after stabbing her on the train. Why is that so important? Well, it takes me to point number two. This whole race war has been amplified on social media. You got people talking about you got to stay away from black people. And the fascinating part about it, it's a distraction, which brings it to point number three. The real people we should be focusing on is the justice system in North Carolina. Who am I talking about exactly? I'm talking about Judge Teresa Stokes. She's the one that let this criminal walk free 14 times, by the way. And you know what's interesting about her? She's not even a licensed attorney and has not passed the bar exam. And only at the state level this is allowed. You can't do this at the federal level, by the way.
I'm curious what Congress is prepared to do to really force judges to keep violent criminals locked up, or at least, for an appropriate length of time.
I think it's outrageous that people are trying to politicize the death of this wonderful young lady. It's outrageous that anyone would politicize their death. What decency do people have at a moment like this, as opposed to trying to find common sense solutions? One thing I can tell you that's also outrageous is that Donald Trump pardoned hundreds of violent felons who brutally beat police officers. And the soft on crime Republican policy inherent in pardoning violent felons has resulted in people all across America subsequently being violently victimized by those January 6 violent felons who were released back into communities all across America. That's soft on crime Republican policies. How dare people try to politicize this tragedy right now?
Okay, so that's Hakeem Jeffries for you. I think that sums up who he is, trying to connect January 6th to this particular issue. And last time I checked, the January 6th individuals, even the most violent ones, the ones that actually put their hands on police officers, none of them had a rap sheet of sexually assaulting people. None of them had a rap sheet of continuing to rob people. None of them had been arrested 13 times, okay? And to all accounts, most of these individuals served prison time, by the way. So I don't know why Democrats like to go down that road, but that is their strategy. Now, let's go to our next story. And now we're shifting to positive news, because I know that's a little dramatic, right? And this is about the inflation report that just came out. And once again, it's not what experts said it would be. Take a listen.
We've got some unexpected good news on the inflation front. The Labor Department reports the Producer Price Index, which is an indicator for wholesale inflation, dropped by 0.1% in August. That after it rose 0.7% the previous month. The drop in producer prices makes it more likely that the Fed will cut interest rates for the first time this year when it meets next week.
Yeah, so this particular report once again proves that the economy is not doing exactly what the experts said it would do. Now, we do have two concurrent issues. One, you've got obviously the Fed cutting rates, but more importantly, the jobs report, okay, the market, it's actually weak. And it's been weak for quite some time. And that's why you've been seeing up to 900,000 jobs have been revised from last year alone. So that's an issue. And that's actually prompting the Fed to say, hey, maybe we really do need to cut rates down. And at the same time, you have tariffs where they said it would trigger a recession, that inflation would skyrocket, and the consumer would be paying the tariff revenue. Well, that hasn't happened exactly the way they said it would either.
There's the exporter, there's the importer, and there's the consumer. And so far, the consumer is carrying the least of the burden. I can tell you what's going on right now in companies is they're going product by product, going through the elasticities, what they think the consumer can absorb in terms of price increase without destroying demand. And they're finding out that they cannot pass through as much of the price increase as they want.
Okay, the point that he's making is often overlooked in this entire debate surrounding the tariffs and inflation. I want you to right now imagine that you own the furniture store down the street. And back in 2019, you could sell the average sofa for $1,000. Then fast forward to 2023, after COVID hit and inflation went through the roof, you had to sell that sofa for $2,000. Now we're in 2025. You're still in business, making money, just enough to survive. Why would you lower it back down to $1,000? You wouldn't do that. Even if the tariffs are costing you more money to acquire that sofa from overseas, you know you can't raise the price anymore. You know, because people aren't going to pay it. That's supply and demand. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is another reason why people aren't really paying the tariffs in the way that the mainstream media wants you to believe. And the president is definitely onto something.
In our own data, things are remarkably stable. I mean, we look at, I know you guys have talked about it this morning and other times, consumer spend continues at the same year-over-year pace across almost all wealth levels. Consumer credit is as good as it's been in the last 6 months. In fact, it's probably trending a touch better. Companies are in really great shape. We look at signs for any kind of change, and you just don't see it. Having said that, there is this big dichotomy between higher income and lower income consumers, which continues and is a real issue. And when you look at just the overall data in terms of jobs, it's undeniable in terms of just job creation. So, yeah, things are actually feel very good today, certainly relative to what you think they could be.
Okay, and that was the CEO of Wells Fargo speaking there. According to him, everything's just fine. Now, if we exercise some reality, everything is not fine for the average American. We know this. Inflation went through the roof, but their wages did not, okay? And so people are still dealing with that reality. And the fact of the matter is, next year, come midterms, we'll find out if what President Trump is doing, is it really going to work in the end? And I think it's premature to judge him today. I think it's a waste of energy, which is what mainstream media continues to do. And I think we got to let the results do the talking, and the results are next year. And now we go to our next update. Today is the last day that the president has the authority to use the National Guard and federal authorities in Washington, D.C. And of course, CNN has something to say about this, including Hakeem Jeffries, which we'll get to here shortly. But there's no question the president turned this whole situation into a success. Take a look.
The clock is running out on President Trump's takeover of the nation's Capitol Police under the 30-day declaration after House leaders decided this week not to extend President Trump's takeover. But this doesn't necessarily mean the National Guard is going away in D.C. So let's go live now to CNN's Elena Treen at the White House. And Elena, you have some new reporting on how the White House is viewing this deadline.
That's right. I talked to a number of White House officials, Pamela, about this, particularly because we know that the president had previously vowed to call on Congress to pass legislation, essentially extending that 30 days that he was able to under the D.C. Home Rule Act, federalize the D.C. police force. But they said essentially that he is fine to let that deadline, it expires today, to let it lapse because of an executive order that D.C.'s Mayor Muriel Bowser signed last week. It essentially said that DC's police force would coordinate indefinitely with federal law enforcement. One official told me this. They said that the mayor committed indefinitely to coordinate with federal law enforcement. The key word is indefinitely. That is what we want. So this is how they're framing this. And I know that the White House has also discussed this with House Speaker Mike Johnson, who, as you mentioned, said that he has no plans for Congress to take up a law on this, saying he doesn't think it's pretty much necessary. Now, I will tell you from Bowser's point of view, she's essentially argued that order was her way of trying to let this deadline expire, get rid of the crime emergency that she has argued is unnecessary. All to say, as you mentioned, we will likely still see some federal law enforcement agents in D.C. as well as the National Guard.
Yeah, see, as we've stated so many times, ladies and gentlemen, if you are able to bring crime down, don't you think that is a good thing? Wouldn't both sides celebrate that? Now, the reason why it's not is because we clearly have a sickness in this country, that we have allowed politics to rule over what's common sense, what's decent, what is, good of our nation. And it's just sad that we've gotten to this point. And I'm only saying that because, as you guys heard earlier in the video, of the whole Charlie Kirk situation, it's just a troubling thing. Now, hopefully, and I'm glad the mayor wrote indefinitely, because I think all cities should get in on this. Clearly, it works. But again, that's not what people at CNN believe. They think that the president focusing on D.C. is actually making us weaker when it comes to China.
Well, I think what's important is that the cities that he's talking about, particularly Chicago, mayors, governors, they know their cities, they know their states the best. They know what they need in those cities and what they don't need. And when you send in our National Guard, I mean, these are men and women trained to fight our wars. So they're not trained in dealing with city crimes. And so
there has been a chilling effect, right? There's far less crime, especially kind of petty crimes, the things that people, I think, who want to go to steak dinners are worried about.
But I think, and we were talking about this in the break, mayors are never going to say no to more federal funding when it comes to police. That's what we need to really be investing in. We need our men and women who are in uniform that are going to fight tomorrow's battles, staying on mission and staying adept to their readiness. They're being pulled from those right now. And they're being expended all across our country. And we're not, frankly, keeping an eye on the threat of China.
The biggest threat is not China. As far as, let's exercise some common sense. Externally, China is our biggest threat. Internally, it's this whole political violence, which we talked about in this video. It's the woke mind virus, what we're doing to children. It's Big Pharma, FDA, the food that's poisoning us every single day, right? It's our inability as a country currently today to agree to disagree. We got this mental illness on the rise. I mean, we have big threats here, okay? And we still are dealing with criminal illegal aliens and pedophiles, all this stuff. And the president is focusing on solving at least one of these issues. His largest critics, they haven't solved anything. And so good on him for doing that for DC. Now, just to bring my point home, listen to this story when you're thinking about threats, not China, but here back at home. Take a look at this.
Early morning hours of August 18th. Surveillance footage at a Ladybug Espresso in Lakewood shows this bikini barista serving a drink to a customer who then violently grabs her through the window, ripping her shirt. Screen captures give us a good look at Ezekiel Guerrero, the 19-year-old that Lakewood police tracked down a week later in Kent. You can see him here in handcuffs.
Is that you? Yeah, that's me.
Guerrero keeps repeating he was not in the right state of mind.
It was just a flash. The moment I realized what I did, I let go.
Despite, according to police documents, Guerrero admitting to grabbing the young woman, he pleaded not guilty at his arraignment and is out of Pierce County Jail with a first-degree attempted kidnapping charge.
So Cash's bail once again. He's out on the streets, so he could potentially commit the same crime again. But this is the justice system. These are the soft on crime policies. This is a big threat. Now, that doesn't mean I want you to be scared or fear-mongering. I'm just telling you what the reality is in this whole debate about, because Trump is focused on D.C., we're losing sight of China. I mean, let's get real on that. It's just unfortunate people think that way. Now, what's even more unfortunate is our political leaders. So Hakeem Jeffries has come out, and now he's telling people that it's not Washington, D.C. that should get praise for the crime crackdown. It's actually Chicago. And the country should mirror Chicago in the way that they deal with crime. Take a look.
Governor Pritzker is doing a tremendous job on behalf of the people in the great state of Illinois and is committed to continuing to drive crime down in Chicago, as Democrats are committed to driving crime down all across the United States of America.
There's more to what he had to say there, but listen, Democrats are not driving crime down. They're manipulating the crime data to say that they're driving crime down. I could show you on my hand at least 5 cities who have already been caught doing this. Some of them have settled lawsuits with whistleblowers already over this. So I don't want to hear it. And then it's being reported that only 49% of all law enforcement actually report their data to the FBI. And that's a whole nother situation. So the bottom line here is it's really a slap in the face for the people that live in Chicago, live in D.C., live in Baltimore, when someone like Hakeem Jeffries claims that Chicago is the model to crack down on crime. It's a complete joke. Now, here's an example of how people in D.C. are feeling. Take a look.
After being in D.C. for 2 days, it is remarkable how much this issue is tying Democrats in knots. Because I talked to several staffers who said, it was actually really nice to go into Union Station and see the markets full again, to see people in there, the homeless people out. Like, these are super progressive staffers who in public are like total, Trump is Hitler. Who were like, man, it's been great. And my boss, most people are advising their members, stay silent. Don't touch this because it's working, but they don't want to give Trump credit in public. And it is remarkable how much they're tied in pretzels.
Yeah. Now, if you guys watch Mark Halperin, Two-Way, very good show. Dan is the Democrat on that show. And I mean, he pretty much exposes what's happening behind the scenes. And that's why I said there's no question Trump is getting results and they hate him for it. And it's interesting that it's not the staffers that hate him, because they're more like, well, listen, at least we're safe. We can enjoy DC again. It's the leadership that they can't go back on what they've programmed their base to believe about the president. And that's just unfortunate. So let's get to your guys' reactions in the comment section below. Obviously, the big one that we started with, at the point of recording this video, we do not know if Charlie Kirk survived, if he's alive. We don't know anything except that he was shot. Please pray for the guy. Pray for his wife, his kids. Pray for the university. And pray for our country. And if you don't like to pray, at least have a moment of silence for the guy. And then secondly, what do you think of the results the president has been able to get with DC and the Democrats' response to it? I think their response is childish at best. And it's only going to put more American lives at risk. That is no question. And then the inflation report that continues to prove, once again, that the experts just are having a hard time getting their predictions right as it pertains to this economy and the way that Trump wants to operate things, especially his tariff policy and the unwillingness from the Fed to cut rates. So give me your guys' reaction to that, and including the audio tape of that killer from North Carolina. Let me know what you guys think about everything in the comment section below. Now, in our next video, in a big announcement from the president yesterday, he signed an executive order in regards to the advertising from Big Pharma on cable networks. RFK Jr. broke it down. I think you're going to want to check it out, including a new study that compares vaccinated children to unvaccinated children. That's also in our next video. So if you're interested, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.